Okay, now dig. Welcome, everyone, to our Boldly Going Nowhere Dharma Talk, being given at beautiful Bali, Rica, again after months of being away. It's wonderful for all of us. This morning we have a special treat, which is Mark Daniel, who happens to hold the intriguing position of being the firekeeper, right? Firekeeper, sorry about that, for 3 Indian tribes in Canada. He also is an expert with the singing bowls. And this morning, our opening meditation on mindfulness is the value of sound in meditation. An example of that is the use of singing bowls. I know that for myself, I have a recording of a man named Benjamin Obst on singing bowls. I go into Shavasana and I go on the singing bowls and I literally just go into another sphere. It's very powerful. So please set aside your cares and concerns for today. Center yourself. Take a few deep breaths and go into silence and let Mark do his magic. Thank you, Mark.
Hello and welcome, and thank you, Ruthie. So, just a little bit about the singing bowls. The singing bowls are a musical instrument if you want, but more importantly, they're a spiritual instrument. And the key premise of a singing bowl is to have a mirror in front of us. And what I mean by that is, as one is playing a bowl, you're listening to the sound that's coming from the bowl as a reflection of who you are and where you are mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically. Example, when I start playing the bowl, it might sound very wonderful at the start. Thank you. Might sound wonderful at the start, but as my muscles start to relax, I'll start to speed up. Just, it feels the same to me, but I'll start to speed up. And the bowl will start to chatter. And if the bowl starts to chatter, it's kind of a reflection of my mind because I'm not really thinking about what I'm doing. I'm more listening to the sound, or I'm thinking about something else, or I'm doing something. And so the bowl is actually reflecting me back to me. Now, when we take this on an even deeper level, then it becomes expansive from the standpoint of where my thoughts, my actions, my emotions, and everything that is going into the bowl at the particular time will be reflected back to me. And my job is just to be the observer. If I'm too relaxed, the sound isn't quite the same. If I'm too, got to get going, as Jeff is going to share, restless, it sounds very, very different. And if I just don't care, I'm just like, whatever, there isn't much to it. And so what we're going to do as a group is, rather than listen to the bowl and see it as a way of replenishing us, which it is, we're also going to be listening to the sounds that are coming from the bowl. I have now just put myself out there and said that the sounds that are coming from the bowl, you're going to actually be able to hear how I feel. What's happening inside of me. And then you have the opportunity to listen to the bowl, notice these things. If you hear something that feels like you could just melt and be lost into it forever, fine. But if you also hear something that sort of feels maybe not quite in alignment, that's good too. But I leave that in your court. That's for you to observe and say, what am I experiencing in this particular moment? What's occurring with me in this particular moment? And the only answer is always the same answer. Just breathe. Just take a deep, long breath and let it go. And it'll probably disappear, and if you need to find something to work on, something else will present itself. I'm quite confident. or you could just be in silence as well. 3 bowls. We have 3 bowls. As Jeff's going to be talking today about, I'll let him do his chat on that, but perhaps we can see these 3 bowls representing those 3 aspects, and seeing just how this sound offers us an opportunity to transcend, transmute, or move beyond torpor, restlessness, and sloth, and yet still be active in the meditation. As with all things, we come into our breath, and as we come into our breath, it's just an observance. Expect nothing more of your breath than the fact that it's offering you prana, life force energy. And as the bowl builds in sound, it won't get very loud, but as it builds in sound, you melt more into yourself. This is that spot where your heart center opens. You feel expansive, and you begin to wonder how it's possible that all of that expansiveness can exist and be within this tiny body. Noticing the bowl is starting to pulse. One key note. There are now 2 harmonics that are coming out of the bowl just on its own. Letting that sound blend with the birds outside the pavilion. Perhaps you can hear the stream behind me. And breathe with the rhythm of it.
Thank you, Mark. Namaste. Good morning, everyone. We are going to continue on a path about hindrances, like motors. Perfect timing. So we have been on, we have for most of the time of the pandemic, since March, here in Costa Rica, Ojochal, we have been working at the basics of Buddhist practice. We started with the Four Noble Truths, spent about 8 weeks on the Four Noble Truths, and then we went to the Eightfold Path, which were all parts of the original talk of the Buddha's enlightenment. Then these hindrances came up. These were originally things that the Buddha talked about that would get in the way of a meditative practice. And we're going to generalize that a little bit more, but it certainly applies to how we practice mindfulness. And so I want to start with some jokes. Not the usual start. Did you know that there are a bunch of sloth and turtle jokes? I was doing research and all of a sudden these jokes all popped up. So, see, I'm a very terrible joke teller. I'm going to read 3 of them. What did the grape say to the sloth when the sloth stood on it?
The grape, did you say?
Yeah. What did the grape say when the sloth stood on it? Nothing. It just let out a little whine.
Oh, oh boy. Bro.
A sloth calls the police to report that he was attacked and robbed by a gang of turtles. And robbed. When the police asked him to describe the attack, he replied, "I don't know. It all happened too fast." That's the best one, I think. The third one is a sloth goes to a bar for a drink. After a lot of drinking, the bartender asks the sloth why he is there. The sloth replies, "I'm depressed, okay? My wife is leaving me, and I bet she's already halfway through the kitchen." These were the best in the sloth turtle joke realm. So we're gonna spend the first half of this talk about 2 hindrances to a meditative practice and 2 hindrances in our life. Sloth, which is translated drowsiness, and the new word torpor, which all of us have been getting used to hearing and understanding, and it's talking about heaviness of body. That's what's that mean? Often like a hibernated state. So when the Buddha started talking about this, he started talking about how lack of energy in your body, in your focus, would lead to distractions and hindrances to your meditative practice. And actually, if we generalize that, drowsiness and heaviness of body for us in life leads us to the same kind of distracted, unproductive kind of lifestyle. So the Buddha, these practices are especially intended for a meditative practice, and yet it applies definitely to our life. Because of my mental health background, I would call this area depression in our modern terms. And so the Buddha said that this heaviness of body is like a pool of water that's overgrown with moss and algae because of lack of movement. And also the other image that the Buddha used was it's like being imprisoned in a dark cell, but needing to be set free. So the sloth and torpor idea, as it applies to this, talk to us about the times when we do not have productive energy to focus, especially on ourselves and on our life. And so it's like looking into a pool that is full of algae. When we look at ourselves, when we look at our lives, when we look at our practices, when we look at our habits. So right away, the Buddha started talking about what do you do with this? In his day, as he was talking to people and their meditative practice, it's like, what should you do? And surprisingly, as usual, the Buddha was incredibly practical. The first idea about how you deal with drowsiness is to change the perception of your mind. Whatever it is that you're following in your mind that's leading you to drowsiness, change the topic. It's really quite amazing when you do that. It could very much add alertness to what you're doing. And so it's so much about the focus. And then the sub idea for that is, if you need to focus on something, focus on your upper body. It's from your lower body that drowsiness, that settling, and those things come in. And so if you focus on the things of your mind, of your breathing, of things up here, your countenance, and those things, surprisingly, that is one of the antidotes to drowsiness, both in meditative practice and in life.
Let me ask you a question. Are you saying that sloth and this sense of heaviness may come because, or being depressed?
It could be.
It could be being depressed, and that is coming from you trying to sort of push away or run away from something. So you pull the covers over your head type thing.
Absolutely. That's many depressed people can't get out of bed.
Well, because they can't deal with whatever the cause is. You're saying look for the cause. They can't deal with the cause, so they just retreat. Is that?
You're going to my second point, which
Okay.
is very good, because we're going to go there now. Is that, as usual, you look at the external circumstances, you change your external way, and then you look for the causes. Where is this coming from? I know in working with people in therapy, the causes of depression are many. It could just be a chemical imbalance. It could be it could be that you're depressed because of circumstances. It could be that you're depressed because of a relationship, a history, your own self-perception. All of those things can lead you to a spot where you have no energy left, and those things. And what the Buddha is saying, way ahead of Freud, the father of psychology, way ahead of Freud, was change your perception and look for the source of things. This is what counseling is all about. Yeah.
I have a comment. I think because of the situation with the pandemic, all of us have changed our habits of go and do this and use that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in a way, it's a perfect example to talk about this, because even if we are not depressed, we have gone inward. We have literally and figuratively. we've had to contain ourselves.
Yes,
And so now we have to adapt to that.
we do. And as usual, Barb, it's about the balance. This third and fourth thing that we're talking about, hindrances, are about the answer is some kind of balance between these. Restlessness is too much energy, too much distraction, too many unfocused things that we follow down the path. This is too few things that we follow down the path.
Andrew Solomon, in that wonderful TED Talk, says that depression, as a psychiatrist, depression is not just a feeling of sadness or sorrow. It is the loss of vitality, the loss of the vital life force, which is energy. So it's your energy being sapped. So rather than just look for the cause of sadness, you also, while you're at it, you need to work on reviving your energy, which it's easy to just give in.
No, absolutely. And difficult to not give in. So the second idea that the Buddha had about this was to reflect on the Dharma. This is one of the reasons why we spent 6 months on the basics of Buddhism. I have memorized the Four Noble Truths. I have memorized 5 of the 8 Fold Path. I can tell you 5, some days, good days 6, and then I need to look at notes. But one of the reasons why you might memorize the Dharma is to give yourself a Dharma talk, to rehearse the things that you know when there's lack of vitality. And they said by practicing and reflecting on the Dharma of which you've memorized, all of a sudden your lack of energy might be changed, might be revitalized.
Kick some of that algae out of the pond.
The third thing is to talk out loud the Dharma. One of these things is to go ahead, find. By the way, healthy people talk to themselves out loud.
That's so good to know.
You know, a lot of people, when they're talking out loud, they're just like, I must be a little crazy here. No.
I try and blame it on the dog.
But actually, by talking out loud, you are reinforcing what it is that you know, and you're changing your mind. There's a bit of distraction in this, where you distract yourself from wherever it is that you're lost.
Sometimes you hear the thing you've been trying to not say. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But sometimes by having to say it out loud, you really hear yourself.
You do. That's one of the reasons why in psychology and treatment, they often say, talk in front of a mirror. Give yourself 10 affirmations today in front of a mirror. Look at yourself in the eye. Or if you've had a difficult time or you're angry, talk to the mirror and you'll see what other people see. And now you can do your own therapy about how do I get out of my suffering, which is the second noble truth.
It pays to be blind. Sometimes. Sometimes.
The fourth one, we're having way too many jokes here today. It's good. Jokes are good. Number 4, and this is in the mental health manual too. Exercise. Surprisingly, you gain energy by exercising. The Buddha said it 2,500 years ago. The mental health manual has said it since about 1970. One of the antidotes to any mental health condition is making sure that you're active. Number 5, I love this one. Water on the face. So what they used to do with the people who were practicing meditation, if they felt a little drowsy, they said, go splash, go get a little water, splash some water. This is what we do in the morning to get ourselves right out of the drowsiness of ours and to wake up enough for the sleep. um, and raise your chin and put water on your face. This is a defeated posture. All of a sudden, the world can look different with that. It's probably why we practice better posture by sitting on and meditating.
You get more air.
Yeah, absolutely. So the seventh one, you can do a walking meditation instead of sitting meditations. Sharon and Mac have a walking meditation circle out here, but you can meditate and walk. I actually meditate while I drive. That sounds dangerous, but actually I'm looking at the road and all I'm doing is saying the loving kindness meditation. And then the last time, and this is another practical thing, how you deal with the lack of energy of sloth and torpor is sometimes you just need to take a nap. See how practical this is? Sometimes it is calling to you that you need to stop. My grandmother was an expert at this. 5 naps a day on the farm.
Just a few minutes.
10 minutes.
That's a yoga nap.
Uh-huh. 10 minutes?
Yeah, 10, 20 minutes. And it's as good as 5 hours of sleep or so.
Right.
All you yoga people.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so what was really interesting about her, very religious lady, had such a busy life on the farm that 5 times a day, twice in the morning, twice in the afternoon, once before bed, she would do these little naps. She would disappear into her room. 10 minutes later, she'd come out revitalized. And then she'd do her next segment of time. Actually, I don't know if you've noticed this about ticos and ticas, but they take regular breaks. What an awesome thing is that? We have 3 guys who work for us. 8 to 8:20 in the morning is food and quiet. On the dot. 12 to 1, and then the workday is done, and that's incorporated into the workday. And what's really interesting is I'm talking about male workers now, the old ticos will just lay on something hard and go to sleep.
Even the young ones do.
No, the young ones are on their phones.
No, that's some young ones.
At my place, the old guys are sleeping and the young guys are on their phones. So, but they are taking a break so that and actually their productivity is better because of it. And so sometimes you just need a siesta. Now I want to talk the flip side of the coin of sloth and torpor. The value of rest. It's not just a hindrance. There's an incredible value when you flip that coin. There are rests in music. Otherwise, the music is just noise. It's a bunch of notes. There are rests in symphonies between the sections. I've shared this here before, where you're quiet, you don't clap. You're quiet so that you can reflect on what happened before and prepare yourself for what will happen next, which will be different. If you don't do that, the second movement will seem like the first. Oh, this is just Bach again. The value in that is the bowl of the symphony has no algae in it. It's clear so you can see what has gone on for you. And those things. And so the value of taking a break is anti-Western. So that's why this Eastern medicine from the Buddha is so valuable. We need to reprogram ourselves that there is just time to stop and take a break and be unproductive. Stop our mind, do that. there's also time, even in the productiveness of the day, to stop and take notice, stop and smell the roses, as Mac Davis says. That value in taking a rest from the clutter of our mind, which will be the next thing that I talk about. There's a value in that. So again, this is all about balance. How many of you give yourselves permission to lay down if you need to?
Oh, we have an educated group.
I was taught that was not acceptable. You need to be more productive than that. You're bago, lazy. We have a dog who's bago, and indeed, this, the first part of this talk, Sloth and Torpour, is like the theme song. But you want to know the value of it is that in balance, it's really important that we get rest.
Less is more.
Less is more,
Less
correct.
is more.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's interesting is, as I turn the page to the next hindrance, more is more for this hindrance. The more you can pack into a day, the better and more productive the day was. This is capitalism at its heart. This is modern culture at the heart. How many of you, when the phone beeps at you, you have to look at it? That's the modern mind. Completely undisciplined and unfocused and ready to take any next stimuli that comes. Sloth and Torpour is the opposite, that you're not taking any stimulus and those things. But the balance between those two and the value of giving yourself rest, adequate rest, restful rest. If you do this and surprisingly do this, your sleep will be more sound. Everybody has their own chemistry about this, but to go back to my grandma's story, which I didn't finish, the problem with my grandmother was once she stopped, she slept. And it was both the benefit, and then when she went to church, the one time a week where she had to sit there for an hour, she slept through the whole thing. And I remember my mother saying it was so irritating. She would snore during the church services. And she was the most religious person in the family. And she just slept through the whole thing every time. But that was the rhythm of a very, very busy life, of which she got the piece where she needed to take little segments of rest. So there's a value, there's a head side to this coin, and then the Buddha really talked about the tail side of the coin, that this will get in the way of the energy that you need to have a clear bowl in your life. There's a poem that we've used before that talks about this. This is Rumi. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Ideas, language, even the phrase each other doesn't make any sense. The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep. You must ask for what you really want. Don't go back to sleep. People are going back and forth across the door sill where the two worlds touch. The door is round and open. Don't go back to sleep. I think this would be good to end with today. That poem is just one of my favorites.
I love that.
It's if anybody wants.
What Rumi poem is it called?
It's a very long poem, and this is just one
This is
section.
just one.
Okay.
But you can just type in.
Yeah, we'll find it for you and put it on our page.
Yeah. I use it a lot.
my favorite line, the breeze at
Yeah.
dawn has secrets to tell you.
That's where I was chilled. Yeah.
I always get chilled by that idea.
Yeah.
That's a very important one.
That's why to be in this spot between busy and lazy or no energy is very focused, and you can actually find the clear pond of your life and have it be meaning for you. So I want to switch gears. No jokes with the last one about hindrances. Restlessness and worry. I'm not going to spend much time on worry. But in the tortoise and the hare story, this is the hare. In the last hindrance, it's the tortoise. Even though they make jokes that the sloth was even slower than the tortoise.
He had more torpor.
He had more torpor, right. Right. And so restlessness and worry is a whole different story that gets in the way of us finding a clear spot in our life and having the energy. This is about too much unfocused energy. Think about that. Restlessness is about too much unfocused energy. Worry is the same thing, really. And so the Buddha said that this is like a bowl of water that the wind creates ripples in, so you can't see clearly into the water as well. It's agitated. It's like the ocean, many waves, so it's difficult to see all the way to the bottom. And so and the Buddha said that this is like slavery. Slavery that's waiting to be released, that's waiting to be freed, like you are a slave to your ego that demands that you pay attention, that you are perfect, and that you find faults in everything that isn't. This is where restlessness comes from, some of the sources. Slavery to the ego that demands no rest, perfection, and finds fault. This doesn't have to always be with other people finding fault. It's many times can be about us finding fault in ourselves rather than being gentle with ourselves. So restlessness and worry, this fourth hindrance, which certainly gets in the way of a meditative practice. This means that whatever comes, when that motor came at the beginning, that you follow that until there's no more sound, and maybe even afterwards. So that's why it's an unfocused and undisciplined mindset. And it's a very Western mindset. The Buddha called this a monkey mind. So I'm going to read exactly what a monkey mind means. Just as a monkey swings through the trees and grabs one branch and then lets it go only to seize another, so too is that which is called monkey mind. So you grab to one branch, you hold on to it until you see the next one, then you grab onto that. Very unfocused, and the very first of the Eightfold Path, right intention, and then there's another one, right focus, and those are connected with this monkey mind idea. This causes waves in your bowl. It's too much. I hope my family members see this. I'm from these kind of people. When you go on vacation, when you go home, you're exhausted. We run an Airbnb, and the Americans that come there generally need to stop and see the sign that I put, which says Relajarse, relaxation. So I stop. If they're from America, I just stop them as an American, and I say, let's just stop here at this point. Big red letters. I'm like, do you know what this word means? They're like, no. And I'm like, relaxation. If you don't spend a day just being here, you'll have missed part of Costa Rica. if you just do a zip line and then you go surfing and then you go deep sea fishing and then you go to the mangrove tour and then you go to the chocolate tour and then you go to the coffee tour and those things. If you do that, by the way, if those of you that are coming that are watching here, you're missing it. That's too restless. That's the imbalance at the other end. Too much unfocused energy. Will you go home with memories? Yes, you will. Will you need another vacation? Yes. And so one of the gifts here is that life starts early and it ends early. That the evenings are supposed to be fairly unproductive. The pandemic, whole periods of time where we don't have anything to be productive and distracted by. No new branch to jump onto in our monkey mind. So the cure to this kind of slavery to our ego, perfection, busyness, all those kind of things, isn't it interesting that busyness and business are right close to each other? Because the Western capitalistic mind is always about business first. And therefore never finds rest because it's never enough. We talked about gratitude about a month ago, and the main idea of gratitude is it is enough. What you have is enough. So the cure to this is developing contentment and gratitude in the moment. Sounds easy, but it's not that easy. Also, as Ruthie said earlier, with restlessness and worry, you have to find what the root cause is. What am I? What is this about? Why do I need to be so busy? Why can I not stop? Why do I never rest? What am I running from? What am I running to? Why? How did I get here? How do I get out of it? All the questions when you have a clear bowl and some kind of balance between all these things, you might be able to find what your answer is. So finding the root cause is to stop the ego chattering monkey of our inner monologue. I love that. That was not my phrase, by the way. I stole it. Finding the root cause is like the ego chattering monkey, stopping the ego chattering monkey of our inner monologue. Our reactivity, always feeding on the next external source. Becoming a human being rather than a human doing. Look at all the different ways we can say this. My father is a wonderful worker. He was born right in the middle of the Depression. So they had to work really hard, in that period of time. And he's 84. He doesn't have a job now. He finds his own busyness, but he's 84. But 83, he had a job. And those things. And I in my honest dialogue with him, and it's gotten less and less tense over the times, I'm like, do you want to know what I want to write on your tombstone? I don't think he's going to have a tombstone, but if you had a tombstone, I'd write this. He worked.
Hard.
And you want to know, he said, absolutely.
He liked that.
He was like, that's it. That's it. And I'm like, yeah, I hope I get to give the eulogy. It'll be in there, Dad. And he seemed perfectly satisfied with that answer. I have grown increasingly dissatisfied with that answer in my life. Which is a good evolution for me. Still productive, but focused. Not always, but more than what it was in the past. too many things, too many thoughts, little reflection, little rest and relaxation, focus on the past, focused on the future. This is the monkey mind. Too many things, too many thoughts, little time for reflection, little rest and relaxation, focus on the past and the future rather than living. Do you relate to this at all? It's like this is it's eye-popping stuff from 3,000 years ago. The Buddha understood the human condition. The result of all this is that we are mentally and physically fatigued all the time. There's always another mountain to climb. Very interesting than having a mountain that you might enjoy. So some of the antidotes to this one is understand it, befriend it, tame it, reduce it, live in harmony with it. If you acknowledge it, you start to have some kind of insight by which you might do with it. Understand it, befriend it, tame it, reduce it, live in harmony with it. It's indeed like a monkey on your back, to use the monkey illustration again.
The hindrances are burdens to be laid down, to be let go of. That's why letting go is.
Letting go is an important piece of
It's not
this.
that you're taking things on, it's that you're learning how to let go of the unnecessary hindrances that get in your way.
We're going to do a meditation at the end of this, and really the Buddha said that a quiet meditation is indeed the antidote to this restlessness. That's why we call this boldly going nowhere, right? It means pausing, sitting, reflecting, understanding, befriending,
And being honest.
taming, honesty, reducing, live in harmony with this. When we do, interestingly, when we make friends of things that are our hindrances and our enemies, they start to join our team, and when we figure out a more balanced way. So the antidote is quiet meditation, and we're going to end with that. And that really means that you cultivate the stillness that is available to you in your soul. That is available to you in your circumstances. That is available to you in your day. That is available to you in your relationships. We have to tame the hare. Otherwise, the hare takes off and ends the race, and we don't even know we ran it.
And meanwhile, his wife is still trying to get across the kitchen floor.
Yeah, you're still at the joke from the beginning.
And he's the winner.
Yeah. So does this make sense? Does this make sense? Oh, boy, these two very interesting, like they circle around each other, and there's a beautiful answer in between. There's a beautiful answer, and that's somehow to be in some focused, disciplined, restful point of centered energy. Meditation is one of the ways of doing that. The Dharma and knowing the Dharma is one of the ways of doing that. You'll find your other own ways. I want to end with Field of Dreams, and that is, if you build this, it will come. If you build this balance, this peace, your antidotes to these hindrances, if you build that, what you're looking for will come. It will come to you rather than you coming to it. It will find you. kind of a great. I always loved that movie.
Mhm.
Any comments? Yeah, Barb.
I have
Speak up, Barb, because we're on here.
Yep.
that.
Take your mask down while you're talking.
Okay. I can understand, and I've adopted a lot of this since I've been here. I cannot imagine it in my career or as a single mom raising kids. I cannot fathom the typical household and the typical because of the drive in your career and do this and do this and do this and overtime and everything else. I can't imagine taking time out. Okay, guys, I'm gonna close the door for 10 minutes. The meeting will be late.
That's your
I
decision.
cannot imagine that.
Do you want to know? I want to give you two examples. My grandmother's one. Another one is a guy when I did church work early on in my life. He was like the executive director of all the churches in the state of Minnesota. Twice a day he laid down for 10 minutes on the thing. He turned his thing. The phones were off. There was nothing that came to him. 10 minutes a day. He did that on his work day, on his sofa, and he was just like my grandmother. 10 minutes, lay down, sleep.
Well, your grandmother could leave out the external influences.
She could.
It was her farm, but in the workplace, you've got things pinging at you all the time.
They do.
And I just have trouble. I don't know about the rest of you, but I have trouble saying, even if you're successful, you saying, okay, from 10 to 10:15, I'm going to close the door and turn off the phones. Well, Barbara, no, there's a meeting downtown, and then because you're being pulled in all these directions. I can't. I see that being very difficult.
I think there's a lot of
No one said it was
research.
easy.
I think there's a lot of research that shows what we're talking about creates more productive days.
Yes.
Yes, but it's the conflict of everybody else, unless they buy into it.
So every person has to make their choices about it. And I do think there's some, like, for example, being a divorced dad. When my kids were with me, I was a single parent. How do I map that out? It's very, very difficult, and people find that really difficult. And yet the message is still the same. The message is still the same, that you can make choices about that. Sonia.
Yeah, I wanted to share that. I brought my son from the U.S. At the age of 16, and he married at the age of 26, 24. He was a relaxed kid. He engulfed himself with the Chico culture, taking naps. As a matter of fact, Jeff knows him. Conrad, chilled kid. People, I had a hostel. People would come even from Europe and tell me, I came back because of your son. That energy. He's so lovely. He's so, just relaxed. He was. Everything was about love. Now he's 34. I get goosebumps telling you this. He's 34, and he calls me his father-in-law. Tells him, chop, chop, chop. Time is money. CFO, retired. It's all about, let's work. His wife is, my son's wife is an administrator for the Worcester School District. So the point of this is, my son called me 4 months ago to tell me that he was going to start taking medication. And I go, for what? And he goes, because I get panic attacks.
Right.
I go, sweetheart, you have to slow down. You can't.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
Yeah, right.
Yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
I will finish with this. I was in the States. I was a successful interpreter, and I didn't know how to slow down. I lost the use of my fine manipulation. I can't write anymore. I was an interpreter, and I did medical histories. And I would never find the time to slow down until I made a decision at the age of 43 to move back to Costa Rica. And yes, I do have the monkey mind. But to realize that I have to slow down, and I find ways, because if not, I'll get lost again. How do you
I'm-
find ways? I'm just
yes.
curious. Exactly. When
Like
I'm,
this.
I'm going to add just those two words that are very interesting that you used one and I used one and we used one here. Meditation or medication.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you want to know from where I'm from? We're pill pushers. Not that there isn't some value in that, but that's that's supposedly the answer. And the answer is much more in dealing with these hindrances in a much more holistic way like this. This is healthy. Good. Thank you, Sonia. That's lovely. John.
Yeah, just picking up on what both Barbara and
Sonia.
were saying. Once listened to a talk from a businessman. He was a retired businessman. He was very successful, a millionaire, and he was devoting his retirement to telling his fellow business people that that greed was not enough, that was not an end in itself. And so, at first blush, you say, "Hey, good for him. He's trying to do a good thing." And then you sort of sit back and say, "No, he's just reaching for another branch.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to take on another task and convince people that go against their nature, not to not make money, but to reach for something else." And in his case, he said, "Reach for business ethics."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "Well, that sounds like a good thing, but he's really trying to make people reach for another branch to justify what they've already done."
Right.
And so it's a false.
It's climbing another mountain.
Yeah, and it's not going to give him any more. Well, it's not going to give him more empathy. It's not
No.
reputation.
No, it's right.
Ethics, and subsequently he didn't get any followers because he didn't really know what ethics was in business, and he realized that it was going to get in the way of greed.
Yeah. I think one of the things, and I think we're going to do our loving kindness meditation next, but I think one of the things that we have to come to is that this is in us, both the disease and the cure. It's all contained within us, and you want to know something, and we make choices about what we will be a part of. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say the example you gave, Sonia, about interpreting and then not being able to write. If we don't learn to listen to our bodies when they tell us to slow down, they're going to do it for us. How many people do you know have had heart attacks or have literally been thrown into a situation where they have to stop because they didn't listen early on? And I think, that's the cure. Right there. Do it early.
Or the other illustration is people who die soon after they stop working.
Yeah.
They work all the time for their retirement, and then they're dead by the time they get there. So anyway, I think the beauty of this is, again, I think there's answers in going to the sources, going to the center, and going to the clear bowl that the Buddha talked about, and to work your way away from these things, not towards perfection, but towards a better spot, towards an evolution, towards a better spot. I think this is a very progressive talk. So thank you.
Thank you.
Why don't you do this? And I want to end with our poem instead of your. End with the Rumi poem again at the end. Can we do that?
We can do that, or we can do it right now, because as you've been speaking, you brought me to the Rumi poem, and perhaps this group will understand what I'm saying. There is a line that says, "The breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. Don't go back to sleep." Well, for many years, dawn was the time that I meditated. So it became a habit. Because I was in the horse business, I had to get up early. I had to do things early. But that was a time that the world is very quiet. It's very peaceful. When I walk through my barn, I could hear the horses snuffling in their sleep. And the birds haven't quite started, they're just waking up. It was always a very special time of day. So that was when I meditated. And now, at my age, and with the infirmity of my eyes, I have discovered something that I still meditate at dawn. And remember this. At the hours between 3:30 and 4:45 in the morning, which is when the monkeys start up, and I am meditating, I'm not in my 80s. And I am not almost blind. I don't have a name. I don't have an age. It is not until I get up and brush my teeth and drink my coffee and get going that I am old and can't see. But in that meditative hour, that's the breeze at dawn has secrets to tell you. That you aren't your age, you aren't your eyesight. At that time, you understand what meditation can really do for you. So,
And that your energy is eternal.
Ram Dass always described meditation as resting in loving awareness. To be able to rest without sinking into sloth, to be aware without becoming restless and caught up in the thought, to find that equanimity where you are at a stable point. And the best time of day that I know to do that is if you can get up right as the first light of day comes. Go sit outside. You can take your cup of coffee with you if you want. And just rest in loving awareness. And this will answer a lot of the questions like Barb with yours. It doesn't take a lot of time. It takes moving into that space. And you don't go back to sleep. You go the rest of the day and you're awake and aware. So anyway, that was a great talk. I really enjoyed it. And,
wanted to clap.
Thank you.
But I think it really covers a very important topic, which is, we keep going back to it, which is equanimity. And what I would like to ask, I'm going to give the classic meditation, loving kindness meditation. And I'm going to ask Mark if he can give me kind of a soft tone to go with it. I want everybody to just take a few really good deep breaths. Why don't you take a stretch? Take a moment for a stretch. Everybody get up. Do a little bit of a stretch. Shake it out. Settle down. Listen to the rain. Is that rain?
Yes.
You're in the, for those of you who are on the internet, if you can hear that sound, that's the sound of the rainforest raining. And it's a gentle sound. And we frequently have that here in that time before dawn. A lot of times it's much stronger at night, and then it just kind of tapers off in the early morning hours. But I think we have one or two people here who've never been here before, right? Is there anybody here that needs... You got some? Okay, well... A meditation...
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. A meditation is a loving kindness meditation. This is where we place our minds. And it's the antidote to many, many, many things. You're going to choose 5 people, and you always begin in Buddhism with yourself. And then you move to someone you love very much. And then you move to someone who is just an acquaintance, or someone you see in passing, or someone who waits on you a neutral person. And then you move out a little farther to give your loving kindness to someone with whom you are in conflict. And then you end with giving your loving kindness to all sentient beings. So I'm going to say a phrase. This is very workable. You can do it any way you want, with anyone you want, anytime you want. You can walk down the street and without letting anybody know it, you can say metta to everyone that you pass. Just one phrase, may you be happy, or may you be well. When I say, for those of you who are new, may you live with ease, we're talking about the balance. This is equanimity. Everything in Buddhism begins with awareness and ends with equanimity in the way of studying. So, close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And Mark is getting us started. And to yourself, repeat after me. To yourself, look in that mirror. It's the clear bowl of water in which is reflected your Buddha nature. And say to yourself, may I be well. May no harm come to me. May I live with ease, calm and peaceful. May I be happy. Now, bring to mind someone you love deeply, profoundly. Look at them and say, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. And now, with a smile, you turn from that person to your acquaintance, your neutral person. If you don't know his or her name, say, friend, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. And may you be happy. And as you release that person, you bring to mind someone with whom you are in some sort of conflict. Doesn't matter what it is. You bring their face to mind, you look at them, and without any sense of malice, you say, may you be well. May no harm come to you. May you live with ease, calm and peaceful. May you be happy. Now that you've let go of that burden, put your hands over your heart. It's the only place big enough for all sentient beings to be held. And we say this one differently. We imagine all sentient beings, and we say, May all beings everywhere on this plane and all other planes be well. May all beings everywhere be safe. May all beings everywhere be free from suffering. May all beings everywhere be happy. And now, again, we rest in loving awareness for a moment or two. And then we release our hands. We open our eyes. We think about a change, perhaps, in the way we feel. And if it's good, let's try and carry it outward from here to be with us when we leave. And we will close with my favorite little words of leaving. Hands together. Go in peace. Go making peace. Living gently. Loving mightily. And bowing to the mysteries. Thank you all for coming. We love you.
Oh, beautiful today. Well done.
Thank you.